This is a time of year where coaches are fired and hired, and Bo Pelini is just another one of the guys who did not survive this offseason. Many of you guys remember him as a Nebraska coach who got fired for going 9-3 every year, but today we will examine his rise to coaching fame to begin with, his Nebraska tenure, and why his 1 year at LSU ended up being a disaster. I'm excited to continue our Rise and Fall of Coaches series and examine why Bo Pelini's coaching era did not go as planned. But first, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you love college football, like the video to help it get in the algorithm, suggest what coach I should do next, and turn on post notifications so you never miss another upload of mine. Now let's get started and talk about the rise and fall of Bo Pelini. Like always, let's go back in time and learn about how Pelini became a big-time coach to begin with. Bo Pelini was born in the Steel Belt city of Youngstown, Ohio, and was actually named after former Browns running back Bo Scott. He became a star player in high school and was actually so good that he got an offer to play for Ohio State, and he gladly joined the team. While he was there, he played for two Hall of Fame Buckeye coaches, Earl Bruce and John Cooper, and actually became a team captain by the time he had graduated, so he was a natural leader and a coach. He was never meant for the NFL, so he immediately joined the coaching world and went across the Big Ten to Iowa and became a graduate assistant under Hayden Fry, and also spent time with the Detroit Drive of the Arena Football League. In 1994, he got his first big break as he was hired as a scout by the San Francisco 49ers, and within 1 year, he was promoted to a defensive backs coach. Pete Carroll and the New England Patriots noticed his talent and nabbed him to be a defensive backs coach in Foxborough. He jumped the ranks a bit as he moved to Green Bay to coach linebackers, and then he made his return to the college football world. Nebraska coach Frank Solich saw potential in him and hired him to be the team's defensive coordinator. He did spectacular on defense, and after Solich was fired, he interviewed for the job, but it was given to Bill Callahan instead. Feeling a bit disrespected, he was hired by Bob Stoops to be a part of the Oklahoma Sooners staff and helped them get back to the 2005 National Championship game. He was then nabbed by Les Miles at LSU and helped the Tigers get all the way to the 2006 national title game, which they would win, and Pelini was one of the hottest coaching names in the country. After Bill Callahan went 5-7, it was announced that the Cornhuskers would be looking for a new coach, and Pelini was atop that list. He took the job, obviously, and in 2008, the Bo Pelini era had begun, and it was going to be somewhat of a rebuild. Joe Gans was the starting quarterback, and they had a star running back in Roy Halou Jr. They began the season 3-0, before they suffered a string of losses to Missouri, Oklahoma, and Texas Tech, but those teams were all good, and they managed to win their last 3 games to get to an 8-4 record, where they then beat Clemson in the Gator Bowl in a thriller. It was a solid first year for Pelini, and expectations rose going into 2009. He would have to find a new quarterback, and Zach Lee was inserted into the starting lineup. Halou was back at running back, and Ndamukong Suh was the star on defense. They started out ranked number 24 in the country, and remained undefeated until a loss to number 13 Virginia Tech by 1 point. They beat number 24 Missouri to climb back to number 15 in the polls, but then dropped 2 straight games to Texas Tech and Iowa State, and all of a sudden, people were kind of concerned. They did win their next 5 games though, including a win over Oklahoma, and got back in the polls before they proceeded to lose by 1 point to Texas. They went 8-4 and then shut out Arizona in the Holiday Bowl, and they ended up going 9-4 in year 2 under Pelini. After the Zach Lee quarterback experiment, Taylor Martinez had actually beaten him out by the end of the 2010 season, and it was a successful year for the Huskers. They began the season ranked number 8 and won their first 5 games, including wins over Kansas State and Washington, but they fell to Texas again. They bounced back with wins over number 17 Oklahoma State and number 7 Missouri the next 2 weeks, and then they barely won a game in overtime over Iowa State, and a win over Kansas extended their streak to 4 straight wins. They lost a game 6-9 to Texas A&M before they beat Colorado to advance to the Big 12 championship game. They were matched up with Oklahoma, and then they lost that game by 3 points. They went 9-3 before they lost the Holiday Bowl to Washington. This was a good year, but the Husker faithful wanted to see Pelini take the next step. Going into 2011, Tim Beck was hired to be the offensive coordinator, Taylor Martinez was back at quarterback, Rex Burkhead was the emerging running back, and Kenny Bell had begun to emerge at wide receiver. They had to jump to the Big Ten now though, and things were going to look a little bit different for the program. They began the season ranked number 10 and cruised to a 4-0 record with a nice win coming over Washington once again, and their first conference matchup was going to be against number 7 Wisconsin. College game day was there, but they got killed by the Badgers. Like Pelini teams always seem to do though, they bounced back and beat Ohio State, Minnesota, and number 9 Michigan State in their next 3 games, before they lost to Northwestern at home. It just didn't make any sense as they had knocked off number 12 Penn State the very next week, then they split their last 2 games with Michigan and Iowa to finish with a magic record of 9-3. They were ranked number 21 in the country and got matched up with number 10 South Carolina in the Capital One Bowl, and that was the end of another Pelini campaign. In 2012, the same narrative began as they dropped one early season game and lost to a powerhouse Ohio State team, but this team was kind of different. Amir Abdullah had begun to break out by this point at running back, and at one point they actually went on a 6-game winning streak and clinched a spot in the Big Ten championship game. They lost horribly to Wisconsin in that game, and then lost to number 6 Georgia in the Citrus Bowl, and they managed to go 10-4. Just asking you guys, have you begun to notice a trend with Pelini's records at this point? Well, in 2013, they had another similar type year, as they were now led by Tommy Armstrong at quarterback, and were powered by Amir Abdullah at running back. They struggled a little bit more in 2013, but they did get to an 8-4 regular season record, where they then beat Georgia in the Gator Bowl and got to 9 wins. 9 wins had become the norm for Nebraska football at this point, and his seat was kind of warm going into 2014. Tommy Armstrong was back at quarterback, Abdullah was a dark horse Heisman contender, and Kenny Bell and Jordan Westerkamp were the go-to wide receivers. They opened up the season 5-0 with a good win over Miami and Illinois, and had a huge matchup with number 10 Michigan State. They couldn't get the job done in that one, and then won their next 3 games, and they were 8-1. As usual though, they lost to another ranked team, and then dropped a game to unranked Minnesota, and they finished the year at, you guessed it, 9-3. They lost to USC in the Holiday Bowl, and after the season, Nebraska was tired of winning 9 games, so they actually had pulled the plug on Pelini before the bowl game, and Barney Cotton coached that game. His last record at Nebraska was 9-3. Mike Riley would take the head coaching job, as we all know, and then Pelini went back to his hometown and became a coach at Youngstown State, where he was there until the 2019 season. He then took the LSU defensive coordinator job for the 2020 season, and he was dealing with a team that lost a ton of starters and had high unrealistic expectations. The defense was terrible for basically the whole year, and after the season, LSU decided to part ways with Pelini, and now he will have to find a new home. So why did Pelini fail to make it work at Nebraska? The answer is really short and sweet, thankfully, and I didn't have to do a ton of research. He could just never take the next step. He could never win the games that mattered most, and just wasn't able to live up to the expectations that Husker fans had grown accustomed to. Some call it the Pelini curse, but Mike Riley didn't achieve much during his tenure, and now Nebraska football has become a meme under Scott Frost, so maybe Husker fans wish they had Pelini back. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but if you're a Nebraska fan, let me know down in the comment section about what you think of Pelini, what you think of Frost, and what do you think about the direction of the Nebraska football program. If you're not a Nebraska fan, I want to know your thoughts as well, and let me know down in the comment section what you think of today's video, and a coach I should take a look at next. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button so more college football fans can see it. If you're somehow new to the channel, be sure to subscribe as I make videos all about college football. And while you're still here, check out my video about the downfall of Brett Bielema on the current end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.